You're listening to Lyfe and Shyt. I'm Daneyel Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal. Welcome to another beautiful day. I am Tommy Walker. I'm the man on the mic, and I'm ready to rock the. I've only done that twice. Today's the second time that I've done that.
Oh boy, I'm not gonna do what I did last time, even though it was real fly.
No, it sounded like you was about to bust a freestyle.
Not this time.
Just something when you got a microphone and buttons, and guests in the building. It's like. It just makes you want to start freestyling.
Yes.
Do it for the culture.
You're so silly. Who do we have in the building today?
Mr. Ken Barnes.
Hey.
Welcome to Lyfe and Shyt.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to that. Hey,
Cheers indeed.
Appreciate you coming on board. Ken, we're going to get into it, but Ken is a very extraordinary gentleman, and I'm just honored to have him here on with us. And we're going to talk about a lot of shit today.
Yeah, man.
A lot of shit. We're gonna be all over the place.
Yeah.
So y'all buckle down and grab your glass of wine so we can have some fun. And Ken also set the new standard for the podcast.
Yeah.
So the new standard now is if you're a guest on the show, you got to bring a bottle of wine.
And bring a good bottle. He bought a good bottle, y'all. So.
Yeah. So real quick, Ken, can you tell us about this bottle that you brought?
Yeah. So this is this winery. We found it in 2019 on a trip through southern France, an area called Châteauneuf-du-Pape, a wine region down there. And we just met the winemaker randomly at a restaurant and tasted it and maybe stowed a couple of bottles in the bags and then shipped some other stuff in.
Oh, that's dope.
And that's one of the goodies. So it's a 2019 vintage, it's pourable right out of the bottle.
That's what I'm talking
It's a
about.
blend of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre, and GSM is my favorite style. That's Southern France and Paso Robles.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
Pour ready right out the bottle is my favorite.
Relationships, like all that based off relationships.
Yeah,
That's what it does.
that is true.
So today's I got a question for you.
What's the question?
Yeah, are you okay with, or actually, and this is kind of a different, you could go any way with this question, right? How you want to answer it. So, people always talk about the disparity and the gap of salary between C-level team members, part of a company, and then, the employees. So do you feel like it's okay to have C-level team members make 11 times more than the people at the bottom?
I think it doesn't matter how much more they make, but they should make more, especially if they do more.
Okay, I like that. Ken, we're going to fly that question over to you. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think it's a top and bottom type thing, but compensation is relative to what you bring to the table and what's available in the market. And this, speaking as someone who's led companies for a long time, you do develop a certain set of skills that are rare and that aren't available elsewhere. I think the big difference is, as a CEO, is your responsibility is all the divisions, everywhere in the company.
Yeah.
It's not just human resources or legal or operations or IT or finance. It's all the above. And if you're unable to flow through all of those departments, I'm not talking macromanaging, but you got to understand, it's kind of like you don't need to be an accountant, but you need to be able to read a finance statement and know when someone's lying to you.
Exactly.
And when you need to call an accountant to take a second look, that's, and so that's, you're going to have compensation that's going to flow with that. The other thing that you'll find, are there exceptions, of course, and we're not talking about Fortune 10 companies where someone's making 40 million and someone else is making, 26,000. Real talk, you're usually talking, that, I don't know, anywhere from 400,000 to 1.5 million type thing. But the reality is, when you're running an enterprise, you have 1,800 employees, 2,000 workers. You're never off the clock. People don't realize that.
It's true.
You're never off the clock.
Yeah.
And if someone says that you're off the clock, cool. What happens if that CEO gets drunk at a ball game on a Sunday? Does it make the paper or not? Yeah, it does.
Yeah. 1,000%.
You're never off work.
That's true.
And it's not like something to complain about, but there's a reality to the compensation difference. Typically speaking, they've taken different risks to get to that point.
That's true.
That others aren't willing to take. 'Cause
Yeah.
most people aren't willing to get fired at any time.
That's the truth. I mean, it's you've given your life, basically. You know, one person can clock in and then they clock out and they go home and they care less about what's happening after that, right? So they're, you know, but when it's your life, it's 24-hour access to you.
It's not a tiny fiddle like Cry Me a River thing, but it is the reality of that. And that's relative anywhere. The CFO has more to do than the senior account manager. So the CFO makes a lot of money.
That makes a lot of sense.
And you know what? People got to understand who Ken Barnes is and the reason why we're having this conversation. Ken is CEO of everything. You know, he graduated Columbia University. And after Columbia University, you worked in multiple arenas from for-profit and non-profit. When you dabble over those two thresholds, you pick up skill sets that, you know, other people really don't have. I've never worked in a nonprofit. I don't know what it's like, but you came into a nonprofit, changed the whole game, and actually made them much better. And people don't understand that nonprofits operate like a company. They're a business. They have to make certain goals. They have to, you know, in order to achieve what their mission is, right? So Ken ran he was the CEO of a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is based out of San Diego. For this is a 37-year-old nonprofit. It was 440 employees, and before that, he was a part of startups. You know, he had his own business. So from being a part of startups, running his own business, and then being CEO of a nonprofit, this is a skill set that you just don't pick up by going through the ranks.
True.
You know what I mean? This is trial and error. This is
A lot of error.
a
lot of error.
Yeah. And this is knocking your head and not, you know, I've always talked about there's no school for CEOs, right? So he didn't go to school to learn how to be a CEO for a nonprofit, and didn't go to school to run his own businesses, and didn't go to school for running these startups. And not only that, after graduating Columbia University, you still went on and went and got your MBA. So, you know, to education is one of those things where, you know, people kind of shit on it a little bit, but it's one of those things that sets you apart from a lot of different things. So I got to give you your flowers on that, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We got a heavy hitter in the building.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So that's why
I'm
we
a
can
nerd.
have this conversation.
I am a nerd who likes to learn.
I love it. I love it. Well, before we get too far, I want to ask this. I know a lot of times the ladies are listening. They hear, oh, it's a
heavy hitter.
Heavy hitter. What's going on? They want to know if you're a heavy hitter outside too, if you're single and ready to mingle, or if you're locked down.
Exceedingly, overwhelmingly beyond happy with my wife Angela. And you know what I said about my wife? I said, you know, one thing with COVID, love is easy, but do you like them? And, you know, and I really like her. You know, in addition to love, like, and so we actually do a lot of things together, and we don't have children, and so we spend a lot of time with each other. We cook a lot.
Nice.
And
That's
probably
awesome.
4 times ish a week we cook together.
That's pretty cool.
And that it gives you a lot of time to communicate with one another, chat about what's going on in your life and work and whatever.
And you get to flow. It's like a little flow. It's
a
like
flow.
you got the onions, I got this, and you know.
And
Like,
she's so my wife's an attorney. Who actually in the building that we're in, she's got the top floor here.
She's right upstairs.
She's upstairs. She's looking down on us right now. But you know, she's a self-taught chef. That's kind of how she would decompress from like trials and stuff. And then I kind of came along. I'm more of her sous chef, and I've got like my 14 things that I do really well, you know. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That is so. I gotta say that is impressive the way you said that. Like I came along as the sous chef.
Yes.
Because I'm not quite the sous chef yet. Because my chopping, I can't quite chop that well.
Yeah, but you're good though.
But I'm a
You're-
seasoner.
Yeah.
I'm more on the seasoning table.
Okay, so my number one tip on the chopping, you have to have sharp knives, and you have to have high quality knives that you keep sharp.
Okay.
I am a knife sharpening fiend. I am so particular about the knives that whenever we go on vacation, I travel with their knives. I have a professional knife carrier. I take the knives, and I have deboning knives, a chef's knife, another chef's knife, a different one for wet materials, a colon skiff knife. Yeah. So I mean, you gotta like
that's gangster.
Yeah,
you gotta be ready. Yeah, so I do the chopping.
Oh wow, I love it.
Can't make sauces well. God, it bugs me.
I love it. Now we talked a little bit about occupation, but what would you say when it comes to occupation? Tommy gave a whole vast of all the things that you've done and all the different what would you say now?
I lead enterprises.
Okay, I like that.
I lead enterprises. My if I had to pick the thing that I'm, we're all like good or strong in certain things. Pretty good at finance and really good at culture. That's my love. I love going into a place and helping employees feel better about themselves.
That's dope.
And their vision and their dreams, whatever that is. It may be there, it may be elsewhere, and you have to be mature enough to help them achieve whatever their path is in life.
Exactly.
Okay. Speaking of dreams, what would you say are some of your dreams?
Well, one is I have I think it was an ad I saw in a magazine on a plane back in 2000, I think it was. And I tore out a page for it. Yeah, I'll own that one. It was 23 years ago. I was 29 years old. What I was supposed to do? But it was an ad for the Intercontinental Hotel Group, and it says you can't have a place until you see them all. And that's why I love to keep seeing places. And what my ongoing dream, not like a destination, but the ongoing dream is to really keep experiencing things with Angela that neither one of us have experienced. And it really it makes life fun.
Yes.
Makes life fun.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome.
And recreation?
Oh, and recreation, yeah. I was like, what would you like to do for fun?
What I'm supposed to be doing, historically, cycling. I've done a lot of cycling events, 100-mile rides, several 50-mile rides.
Ooh, 100 miles.
I got out of and got a little bit out of practice, so I've got to force myself back. Tommy's much more disciplined than I am. Semper Fi over here. Well, it was 4:30 and I hadn't worked out yet. So
that's because I told him I was supposed to work out this afternoon, and I was like, "Fuck it, I got to move the workout to this morning." Yeah. So, but it's funny because I just picked up cycling. All of us, I've never done a cycling class in my life. Like, we just bought bikes in December. Mm-hmm. I'm head over heels for it right now.
It's fun.
Yeah. And now my workout is like 30 minutes of cycling and then 30 minutes of some type of strength training. And then the days off, which is Tuesday and Thursday, I'm on my bike doing at least 10 miles. Now 100 miles.
Whew.
It's just what happens. You just do a little bit. And next thing you know, it's, you spend 6 hours on a bike. And you grab a sandwich at 3 hours, and you put some potatoes in your back pocket, little boiled red potatoes with a little salt in it, and peanut butter sandwich in the other pocket. That's all them pockets are in the back. So that's food, man. And you're all. The other thing for fun is, so we like to cook. We travel a lot. That's kind of like our fun, little bits, big bits, and we try to put some time on the road, and so that's I would say that's our fun side.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like
so,
that.
And we're going to talk about the traveling. Now, back to the topic about the disparity and the gap between how much a C-level employee makes and how much a regular employee makes. In a company, it's completely different. It's one of those conversations that people are very leery of having. Like, it's not one of those conversations people like to talk about.
It's true.
Especially with just money, period.
Yeah. What would you guys say is some of the most common methods used to determine what the CEO's pay is, period, though? Like, how is that even, I think people don't know that.
It depends. And that's not being snarky. It just really depends. I mean, the best way is probably to do a survey of a particular industry, and based on company size, where you want to go, predicted growth, et cetera, and look at what those comps are. But then you have to ask yourself, where do you want to go, and then what do you need to get there? And so you're talking about different skills. Do you want someone who's about growth? Are you just trying to keep the trains running on time? That's a different skill set. Yeah. Or do you need an external CEO? Or do you need someone under the hood of the car? Do you need someone who's both? And so each one of those, you kind of add in a bit more or change. That's on the CEO level. It's the same basic thing when you're looking at, a chief operating officer or a vice president of operations, human resources officer or chief human resources officer, or do you have both of those? How stratified is it and how big is the business? And so, and then with that, there's X factors that come in. How many locations do you have? How many employees do you have? How distributed is the workforce? How much technology do you use to execute the company? That's going to be a lot more these days than there even was historically in non-tech world. So there's all these little pieces. And then the question is, with that company and the skill set you need, what does that person cost? Because remember, the more bells and whistles you add to the tree, the fewer people there are. So now the comps aren't necessarily what's out there as far as what this person makes. You got yourself a unicorn here. There's 6 people that maybe hit all these boxes, and you're like, well, how much does it cost for that person to say yes? And that's what your comp is. Or you got to change what you want to do.
See, now that's real shit. And when you think about that, companies that have been around a long time have those opportunities and say, okay, this is what we're looking for. And then you have companies that haven't been around a long time, and they're just trying to do the best they can. And when you do C-level like that, it makes you think, like when he said, everybody don't have that skill set. Everybody can't do that. Everybody can't. But then when you think about the positions that, we're comparing to, people that like to complain, because I think about how we were in an award ceremony for CEOs.
I know. As soon as you said it, I was like, whew. And I remember that.
And it was a nonprofit, and they were going through, it was a contract year for them. And the employees of that nonprofit came in.
Oh, we were at that together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
That was the one.
You were there.
Yeah.
So
right.
You want to talk about, I can actually give you a little insight on that one.
Thank you, baby.
Like real talk. So I was the nominee that year. I didn't win.
Me neither.
But one of my best friends
I was
did.
nominated too, and I didn't win.
Two of my close friends won, so I was happy. No, but on the real, like Sid Vivek from Junior Achievement, Tamara Craver from Reality Changers, and Arnolfo Enriquez from MAC, which we were going to talk about, won. So I was happy about it. So we're at the CEO of the Year Awards for the San Diego Business Journal, and there was some employee labor contract negotiations, and they decided to work to embarrass the CEO while he was receiving an award as a top CEO in the region, which he is. I happen to know him, so I'll admit I got a little bias. I love brother. He's a good man. He treats his staff well. I've seen him treat them in public and private. He treats them well in both settings. That's, to me, is a key leader. That's why Arnolfo's such a good leader. Lizette Isles, who's his number 2 kind of there. And I happen to know that they stress about finding ways to pay employees more, to treat employees well. And so sometimes you look at that and look, it's a little, you go, man, like really people? Like this is how you're going to treat someone. This isn't some guy who doesn't care about you. This guy who loses sleep over your life. And then you're going to come and look to embarrass him in front of others. And for context, this is a company that is probably the leading service provider amongst the Latino community. And so then they come in a room that mostly is not black or brown to try to embarrass. And it like adds an extra layer to it, because when you're a CEO of color, you're already going through enough.
Exactly.
And but you know what I'm proud of? They're handing out flyers, everything. And then that tall lady walked around, snatched all them flyers out and threw it in the trash. That was my wife. She was like, "No, you ain't doing this." Coming in, grabbing the microphone, shutting it down.
And that's why I love that you said try. They try to. You know what I mean? And we were there, and I thought it was entertainment at first. When I heard them coming in, rolling in, I was like, "Oh, so it's entertainment."
Danielle was like, "Who brought the band?"
Yeah.
But you want an example? You want to know why is C-suite? Why is a CEO special? I'll use Arnolfo. He was stoic. He was polite. He sat there. You think it didn't bother him?
Oh man,
it bothered me.
Right? It bothered me.
Yeah, so 1,000%.
I didn't even have to ask, does it bother? But he sat there, ate it while they grabbed the microphone, pushed people out of the way, rolled over security, just madness. And then he accepted his award. And what did he do? He made a joke about it, you know.
Yep.
But the thing is, that's the role. And, you know, when you're the program manager, you don't have people come to your events and talk about you like a dog and hand out flyers calling you the devil. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And it's a great example of, you know what, you're going to get talked about and you can't get offended. And that's the other thing. We joked before we were talking, I go, what are you talking about? I said, I don't care about anything. I don't get offended. Well, that's the thing, because you can't.
You can't.
The only thing you should ever get angry about is how someone is treating someone else. But if you ever get angry about what people say about you, leadership isn't for you.
Nah, 1,000%.
Oh, what would
Credit
you say?
to Bill Clinton. He said that first. So I can't steal that from him.
Is there a correlation between CEO pay and company performance?
There should be. There should be. You know, that's...
What is it?
Well, it depends on what the companies are. So for certain circumstances, it's to profit, bottom line. Shareholder return. Shareholder return has taken a wildly different definition these days, because shareholder return used to just be, you know, hey, dollars, cents, earnings per share. Shareholder return now, you know, involves social corporate governance. It involves, you know, environmental concerns, you know, employee morale, public affairs, perception of the company.
People want to be a part of a good company.
Yeah, there's a number of other measurements that go into it, some qualitative, some quantitative. And it's those qualitative ones that are a little difficult to measure sometimes, because it's not dollars and cents. So there's arguments. Some say that it should always stay quantitative, it's bottom line. But I would argue that what the bottom line is a different... It varies. I took I broke a whole bunch of rules when it came to so my obsession was maximizing hourly employee pay. When I came in, the first time I came into a nonprofit world, and so I couldn't understand how the average pay was 10 cents over minimum wage. That made no sense to me. And I understand that they lost some money and stuff before. I was like, well, we just had to figure out a way to generate more revenue.
Money, yeah.
But I'm not paying somebody $13.10 an hour. You know, that feels like a human rights violation. I don't know. It just didn't feel right. And so,
I mean, it's like when you do the math, you know, it's like my employee can't even live.
So you got it up 38% over the first 2 years,
Nice.
got them to 18 and a quarter. The goal was 20 within 5 years, and so it was well on its way. And you have to do it within, you still have to be fiscally conscious. I mean, you can't put the place upside down. But one of the things, we had generated more revenue than anticipated in fiscal year 22 at one point. This is when gas prices went through the roof. And so, you know, employees driving to and from work. We're not by public transportation. It's in New York City, where you grew up and I used to live. Right? So it's a different story.
Transportation is different.
And the lower your income is, the older your vehicle is typically, you're more likely to own it. And, you know, so you're going to spend more on gas. Gas was $6.30, $6.40. Remember that in spring 22? And so I wrote everybody a bonus check, every hourly employee.
And your board was okay with that?
Well, I just wrote it.
Or you
You didn't ask for permission.
Ken said, hey.
Well, you know, I'm looking at, here I'm a nonprofit, and I'm accumulating, a couple of $1 million. There's no debt, so I paid off all the debt. So, you know, everything's cool.
Yeah, so
everything's paid.
So,
I've got, 8-9 months of money in the bank. So, my employees are hurting.
See.
Now, I couldn't raise their wages right then because that's a permanent shift, and you may or may not. So I believe in you have a fiscal performance, you look backwards, and then you adjust. That's how you keep yourself out of trouble.
1,000%.
But right then in the period, I had employees who couldn't get to work because they couldn't afford to put gas in their car. We were handing out gas cards and things like that and gift cards. So I wrote them all $1,000 check.
See that, and that's generous.
Which is the equivalent of about 50 cents raised per hour. It's but all at once.
Yeah. So,
You've got to be about the people that you serve. And that's the difference. If you want to be a decent C-suite employee, serve everybody else. Don't give me these, sir, I'm a servant leader speeches. No, right. Are you going to write them a check?
It's in the actions. And this is this is no small, like $1,000. We're like, oh, that's nothing. 440 employees or 400 plus employees. Yeah. All got $1,000. That's significant.
They gave it to everybody but the C-suite. So because even a supervisor, an area manager at a mid-level, they're not rich.
No,
they're just so feeling the pain too. C-suite didn't need it though. Made enough money.
And explain the structure of, because when you think of a nonprofit, it's not like you going out there and you're selling more products. It's not about what you're selling and trying to, or increasing your price to bring in more revenue. You literally are building relationships and getting people to donate. So it's a
blend. Yeah. So probably the biggest misperception about a nonprofit is they look at it as a nonprofit. That's just, it's incorporation in the tax code. This is a business. And you know what you got to do as a nonprofit? You got to follow the labor code. You know what you got to do as a nonprofit? You have to pay your bills. You have to.
It's not like church.
Yeah. You got to do things right. And if you've got 400 people and you got a $24 million budget, this is a business that just happens to be for the public good. And so that's where you balance things. You don't make all your decisions on, what makes the most money or makes the least. That's not, you can't go just by that. That has to inform your decision. But you're operating a business and you should recruit people who have expertise in operating businesses. What happens often with nonprofits are really good people. They start something big heart, maybe from the social services sector. And the thing grows beyond them, and things start to fall apart because they don't have expertise in running an enterprise. And unfortunately, some won't ask for help or seek to help, or they don't have enough confidence in themselves to hire people at their level and above. In other words, your C-suite should all be able to do your job. And that, if you want to be a real effective CEO, hire 6 more people who can be CEOs.
That's real shit.
And that's kind of where when it comes to coaching and leadership, I want to be so transparent and show you the job. Like it's not. I don't want to hide and say no. You can't learn how to do this.
Only I know
because
this.
Only I know this because I don't want you to take my position. I tell my team all the time is you're not growing unless you're teaching someone else how to take your job, not do your job. Take your job. I want you to teach somebody how to take your job. And even if they don't take your job in this world, in this company, they're growing and they're going to go somewhere else.
And the other part of that is if you don't, you're giving yourself room to grow, right? Let them take your job, and now you have the opportunity to go to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now Tommy talked about the board. Did you have permission from the board to give those bonuses?
I need permission.
And but now my question is,
no, well, you have to understand like the power of your role. A board has 1 employee.
You. Yeah.
And that's it. And you're authorized to execute within whatever the bounds are that, policies and things like that. But and you got to execute.
So does the board have any say in setting the CEO's pay?
They're the only people who set the pay. Yep. That's the only job they set to pay for.
And they're the ones that fire.
And with a nonprofit, board has to set the pay of the chief fiscal officer. That's just a state law. You got to run it through, and they have to.
I was gonna say, how do they ensure that it's like fair and it's transparent? You know what I mean?
You do a salary survey. There's part of it how you stay in compliance with, IRS rules. You do a survey like, hey, what is the pay range for it based upon this size company? So, like for example, in San Diego, I think the last one from 2021. Last time I looked at something, business with 15 to 25 million or 10 to 25 million or something like that, more than 100 employees, some other little check boxes. I think the pay range is like, low end, probably like 260, 275 up to 400 in that group. And then you factor in other things such as
options,
their background, because there isn't stock and things like that, but it's background, what they bring to the table, their performance, and then you adjust that. And like we talked about before, shareholder return in a nonprofit's different. So what is it they're looking for? And if you're really executing a nonprofit, I was just coaching someone earlier today that's a nonprofit world in the earlier stages of the fourth year company, about one of the things you can do is really look at doing more fee for service work so that you're not totally dependent upon dollars that you raise year to year. It's a business that's for the public good. So again, it's not I don't want to give you like a non-answer, but it really is like, it depends is the answer to how you set the comp.
And one of the things that, people kind of get misconstrued with CEO pay is they think the CEO sets the pay.
Yeah.
It's like,
true.
It's like,
No, it's
you're
the
the
board.
CEO. No, the board sets the pay.
Actually, the market sets the pay.
And, the market and the board says, all right, we're going to come in at market and this is what it is. And it's not a thing where if you're a public company, that's where it is. A private company now,
that's different.
Different world, right?
It's
a different world. You said it, but as a private company too, there's a lot more not restrictions, but a lot more obstacles because if you're private, if you're a brand new private company, or even if you're private and you're huge, there's still a lot of obstacles that you got to overcome. So can you? I mean, you've been in the startup world. I mean, we've been in business now for 4 years, and I mean, honestly, our pay is not, and we do decent, but our pay is literally set at what they call the max for Social Security. So if you want to participate in Social Security, you set the max because of all these different things. But we're not the ones like we're not those kind of C-level members, and we're private owners. Like we have 0 partners,
right?
And we don't go out and take $1 million of revenue. Our revenue is literally. Our ops manager makes more than we do.
We do, yeah,
well,
definitely.
Yeah.
Probably a conversation for another day, but there's a couple of, as someone's owned companies before, your comp isn't relevant to the employees because you own the company.
Yeah.
Right.
So you also, you got to get profits, or maybe you got to put more in.
Yeah.
No,
But it's not really the same. But the other thing I would say, and this isn't just to you, this is to all entrepreneurs everywhere, as someone who did a lot of work in that mergers and acquisitions world and startup, don't own the whole thing yourself.
We've learned that.
Now,
Yeah.
I made that mistake. Well, I'm speaking from a personal mistake that I made before. You want partners, and at 1, you're going to learn more, and 2, you'll be able to do more.
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
And we learned that because the first partnership, nobody had an idea. Now we were like, part of it was ego because it was like, oh, fuck y'all, we're going to make this
Just
thing
want to
happen.
do it ourselves, Don't want partners, the headache.
Without the restrictions.
Yeah, that too.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, and then the other part now is like, because now with our new venture, we're like, all right, we're going after the partners. Like we're going to anybody wants to take a share, hey, we're giving away shares.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, when we started, it was real bootstrap.
Yeah.
And I think it was more on purpose for us to be bootstrap. But I got employees that feel like, we owe them. I'm like, homie, you don't know that I had to sell my car to get this business started.
Yeah.
But you feel like I owe you something.
That's always going to be the case.
Yeah.
Look, I sold a car. I sold some golf clubs. I sold, like when I started one of my businesses, I sold everything. I come up with the cash. But here's the thing. They shouldn't care. And you shouldn't care that they care.
No, now I don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, that's just, and look, it's just is what it is. But someone told me once, and it was good advice, is don't let the knuckleheads influence how you feel about everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
There's always going to be some knuckleheads, but
right.
but as long as you have a great culture, then the rest are going to come along, and they're going to encourage you. They're going to give you strength when you feel a little weak.
Yes.
They're going to give you a little bounce. They're going to love where they work, and they're going to love you personally. I'm still in contact with many, many former employees going back longer than that, maybe 27 years of management / business ownership. I stay in touch with a lot of people.
I love that.
And it's just about, do you really love them? I love the people who I work with. I really do. I'm not shy about being a Christian. I've talked about this before, and I always think that in in weddings, they always often read from like 1 Corinthians 13 about love. Love is this, love is that. It's kind, it's patient, it's it has grace, and on and on. We could do that in the workplace. It actually works in a secular sense.
Yeah.
True.
Like, and because if you give grace to staff, people are going to make mistakes. Give them grace, which is just, unmerited grace. If you care about what's going to happen to them, if you care about their lives, that from a pure business operations perspective, it is a profitable way to do business.
That's 1,000%.
Like if you just want to the pure business school approach, I would argue that love is quite profitable in the business
love
sense.
is the way to make it. That love is that you're gonna preach up in here in a
That's
minute.
That's 1,000%. And it's funny you say that because like every year, like I've been when I was in the corporate world, same thing. I used to meet up with my guys every year around Christmas time. We'll meet up, go out, have drinks, eat. And I did that for 12 years when I was with them. And now I've been away 6 years, and I still do it every year with them. They call me up and say, "Hey, Tommy, we meeting at this point." I'm like, "All right, I'll see y'all."
They're
there.
the ones in New York?
Not here. Here,
okay.
Yep, here in San Diego.
So guys, we talked about starting the business, right, and giving up our cars and sometimes golf clubs or whatnots, right? How would you say startups typically raise capital? Is that how? Is that
no? That's how Black people raise capital. Because we're gonna own it all ourselves. Ain't nobody gonna have my company.
Shares? What?
No, what I've learned through trial and error is the most effective companies. You're not just raising capital to spread risk and risk mitigation, which is wise, but you're bringing in significantly more knowledge. There's just so much out there to know that you can't know, and you have to acknowledge that. You also, by raising capital, you can actually create a real legitimate enterprise that flows. You can pay employees well. You can expand. You can take some risks because a good startup takes risks, calculated risks, and they don't all work out. That's okay. You can fail, but you need space to fail. And what I would argue is that self-finance companies who use loans or lending or SBC and on and on and on, they don't have the capacity to fail. And you need to be able to fail to grow. You need to fail forward. And that's the only way.
Yeah, failing up. Stay tuned. But it's a good point because we actually went through that. So when we scaled our business, no financial backing. We did it on our own, and that was one of the things. To your point of the education approach, I had no idea what scaling was like until we went through it.
Right.
And when we scaled, I mean, we doubled the company, and to double a company that fast in 18, like we did it in 18 months, doubled everything, our assets, our head count, our payroll, everything was doubled, and it was financed through us. Yeah. And it was like, oh shit.
Like, what just happened?
Yeah. What, like, damn.
Our heads were spinning.
Yeah. It literally dried out the bank, and it was like, oh, all right. Well, that wasn't like, it looks good. Yeah. Now we're operating over 100 employees. Got all these assets, got multiple offices. And it was like, well, damn. And now we have no room for error. We had no room to take any more risks. We had no room to pay anybody to keep them because now the market was so competitive. We're competing against, in our transportation, we're competing against UPS and FedEx. So how do we say, all right, we're better than these guys, even though they're bigger than us? Yeah. We had to go out, the junior guys coming out of the gate. And therefore, we wind up losing on that whole division at the end of the day. So,
biggest mistake I ever made looking back, business, I owned a payment processing company, banking services, and I built a call center in the Philippines in this town called Iloilo, and it's like an hour flight south of Manila. And I did it all out of pocket. I had financial backing from the bank. Washington Mutual, man, I was feeling good, right?
Credit. I remember those guys.
Yeah, credit was strong. Boy, they gave me any amount. I was like, y'all gonna give me all this money just on my name? Like, just all I gotta do is sign here? No collateral. Oh. You sure? Man, they gave me all that cash. Built the call center, and things are going well. We had a little hiccup, and then hiccups happened. Two things happened. One, Washington Mutual ceased to exist as an organization. So
that was big.
That's huge.
This was 2008. The second thing was because I had used savings and I borrowed money to do it, it wasn't that it wasn't it was a non-solvable issue. It was solvable. It just needed some cash. But I was out of cash. Now, if I had used partners going into this, it wouldn't have been a big deal to come up with another $100,000 to solve this issue.
Right.
But it's tapped. I didn't have $100K cash on hand. I had unloaded the liquid because I was like, I don't want to generate debt. I don't want somebody else telling me what to do. I want to part my business. I'm gonna make this bank myself. Yeah. And I learned from that. I was fortunate there that I was able to get out of get back to zero. Right. Which was
it's success.
I was happy with it.
That's a win.
Just real talk.
That's
I was like,
real talk.
Can I rather get to zero here? Yeah. I got to zero and hit the eject button. And a lesson learned. But that's always stuck with me. Yeah. That was the final lesson.
And I was gonna say, what are the most common mistakes that you think startups make? Other than not having partners.
They think it's going to take less money. They don't raise enough capital.
They always say whatever you think it is, raise like triple that, right?
It's not because of wasteful spending or things like that. It's just things are going to happen. R&D costs a lot of money.
I'm about to say R&D. That's it right there.
R&D just keeps going, and you have to be at the edge.
So R&D, explain what that means. For
research and development. Whatever your product is, whatever the service that you're providing, you've got to do market research to know what you can't use your gut.
You got to survey. You got to talk to the market.
You can't feel it. I feel like people will like this, right?
You have to let that inform. You can use intuitive feelings, but you need to have it backed by science.
Yeah, and like I got a buddy right now doing research and development. He got a pretty dope product, and he's at a point now where he's like, all right, we're raising this money. We're spending money on R&D. As an owner, I'm going to take minimum wage. As the founder, like he's a founder, and he's like, I'm not taking C-level salary. I'm taking minimum wage. Below what any other employee in this company is making. But those are the sacrifices that you got to make to make it.
I mean, he owns the company though, right?
Yeah, he owns it. Yeah,
so, I mean.
Well, he owns a portion of it.
You're talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, he owns a portion of it.
There's like some dude on Twitter that talks about this. I only took $70,000. Like, yeah, man, but you sold the company for like $39 million, right? So... Yeah.
Like you're not hungry. Yeah. And you still going to your favorite restaurants.
People from rich families talking about, I'm just taking the minimum. Yeah, but you're not behind on your SDG and e-bill, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's real talk. And it's funny that you say that because when we first started, we didn't pay our mortgage for 4 months. So 4 months, and then I got the letter. I was like, hey, you forgot to pay. I was like, no, I didn't forget to pay.
And then we got the letter. It was like, if you don't pay this next month, then we're going to put liens on. We're like, okay.
Well, you want to know? Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it actually speaks to the reality of what Black entrepreneurs, more than anyone else, face. The whole long list of other things that come into play. But I think about even like college. So I'll always remember it was going in my third semester. I was maxed out. I'd used what savings I had because I went back to college a little later in life. And I borrowed what I could borrow. And I needed just a little bit more. My Aunt Mary gave me her mortgage payment so that I could stay in college and pay. I was 8 days from being disenrolled because I hadn't paid over. Her mortgage was like $1,200, and that's what I needed. And that's what he called me. She goes, hey, I prayed over this. And then I called the mortgage company, and they said they can put this payment to the backside of my mortgage. And then I just wanted to I put a check in the mail to you.
Oh, man.
And, it's like that's real life for Black entrepreneurs, for Black academics who are coming through. And I think for me, I remember those things. And so being the first one in my family to have a 4-year degree, and my mom's one of 18 kids. I have, 43 first cousins, lots of seconds.
43 first cousins.
And, that's what it takes, that investment. Wow. And so I don't think people understand the complexities.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. They ask about like reparations and why and stuff, and I'm like, because my grandfather, who died in 2004, who I'm named after, my grandfather, my granddaddy, his first language isn't English. It's Gullah and Geechee, a slave language. That's how close slavery is.
1,000%. And it's funny because, you know, the kids need
and
to.
I'm 52.
Yeah, and kids.
So, you know.
It's not old.
Not at all. Not at all.
I was born 1970. My grandfather's first language is a slave language.
Yeah. So and as kids need to understand that. Like, that's literally how close we are to the way this country was ran for so long. So long.
My mama, the first time she got to vote, my parents were 1968. My mom was 28 or 26, and my dad was 33.
So, and you could tell us. And
I mean, that was just 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, and the opportunity to be able to tell those stories, like that's stuff that can't just be swept under the bus,
true.
right, or under the carpet. Yeah, like you
Or the
can't.
bus.
You can't just say, "Oh no, we're changed, we're different. This is how it is." Like, yeah, we're on a long journey.
Yeah.
So we was talking about this the other day. We was talking about life is a journey, right? It's like a bus ride. And I was talking to the author, Merritt. Merritt is the author of My View from the Back of the Bus.
Yeah, I got that. It's a great book.
And we were just talking about, just how close it was and the experiences and where we are today, but yet still dealing with a lot of the shit. And even as an entrepreneur, as a C-level, no matter what, we still have to go through the same shit even harder. We have to be better, we have to learn more, and we have to be more efficient.
They don't like no uppity Negroes.
Nah. And then
Which
don't
is
be
why
too
I wear
uppity.
that shirt sometimes. By the way, the uppity Negro since 1865. Yeah, man.
And don't be
I'm
too
proud to
uppity.
be.
Because if you're too
Proud
uppity,
to be
then
uppity.
you
That's why I came in
disconnect.
here with some Chattanooga to pop wine. Kiss my black ass.
That's right. That reminds me. That reminds me.
I mean, this is life and shit, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I can
right.
say that.
That's right. It reminds me of Warren Buffett's quote. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it, right? And if you think about that, you'll do things differently.
1,000%.
That's why I don't hang out with women I ain't married to.
I know that's right.
That part right there.
5 minutes, boom.
Yeah,
Yep.
Especially as a black man, because they'll label you
Oh, man.
kind of. If you see me with somebody I ain't married to, it's someone as well known as one of my close friends, and like you can't.
And I always say, you gotta
Or it's
protect
my
yourself.
sister.
Yeah, gotta protect yourself.
Yeah, you got to.
Yes. And
Now-
Tommy will tell me that all the time too. Like, well, protect me too. If we're somewhere, he's like, you got to protect me, babe. I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
'cause
true.
you never know. So we talked about reparations. Now you had the opportunity to you said your grandfather native language is a slave language. You had the opportunity to go to Africa. It's on our bucket list to go to Africa. What was that like? Because you made mention the first time, and as much traveling that you've done, it's the first time you actually went somewhere
Hit
where
that con.
where
Now I just hit the
everybody looked like
tip. Wait, that came out wrong. I was in Northern Africa, in Morocco. I really my lineage traces to Western Africa, and I want to make my way back to Sub-Saharan Africa and dive into that. But nevertheless, it was weird for me when I landed in Morocco. Yeah, we deplaned on the tarmac. And, with a ladder, when I stepped on, I felt something. And my knee, I felt a little emotional. Actually, my eyes watered some. I can't explain it. But the biggest thing was, and we've literally been around the world. The only continent we haven't hit is Antarctica.
Wow.
That's on our hit list for 2024.
I'm about to say that.
Again, that was your spirit. Your soul was like, I'm home.
It was like I still can't articulate
energy,
it. And it's been, 8 months, 7 months, I guess. And I think what stuck out to me is when I saw people who looked like me, like actually looked like relatives. I had someone ask me if I was someone else.
Wow.
Because and I opened my mouth and he could, so I was American.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, and he showed me a photo. I looked like this brother. I was like, oh my gosh, like I do. My wife was laughing. She's like, oh my God. And it was just like, that's never happened. I've lived in China. I've been I've never.
It's like my people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
That's
and
my
there was
people.
there was something comforting about it. The closest I ever came was once I was in northern India, near the Pakistan border, and it was summer, so it was hot, and so my head was shaved, and I had a baseball cap on, and they assumed I was Pakistani because they would start talking to me in Urdu.
Really?
And Pashto, and I don't speak Urdu, and and they just assumed that I was Pakistani. I was like, oh, okay, that was the first time I had the experience of a lot of brown people, close. But over there was the first time where it was just like, no, I actually really.
That is so impressive, and it's on our list to go next year. Actually, is when we're supposed to be. But you went to Morocco. I got a buddy that's from Morocco, and he talks highly of it. And it's funny because he's from Morocco. He lived in New York, and then now he's here. He's like, I'm like, man,
The journey.
yeah, we're on the same
life
trajectory
journey.
too.
Yeah, seriously.
But so a great time. How long were you there?
We were there a few weeks.
So a couple weeks. Now, when I think of Africa, I think of the coast. I think of the beautiful cities, especially on the west, because like you said, that's where most of our ancestors are from. But when you go up north, it's a little different. And Morocco is a very beautiful city.
It's a great country. It's an Arab nation, which is a little bit different. So most of sub-Saharan Africa is not, Muslim, and so they the prayer calls 5 times a day, and the fascinating thing I found about that, even though I'm not Muslim, what I really came to respect was how this community of people comes together 5 times a day in prayer. Like they bond around it. It takes a little getting used to. The first time, like, air sirens going off or something, I'm like, oh, we dying. It's a bomb, and then it's like, oh, and I was like, oh, they're saying something, and
and immediately everybody stops.
Yeah.
So I want to say all those fire alarms that we went through, or those fire drills as kids, worked. Because we hear the alarm and we're like, okay, is there a table for me to get under
Tell
somewhere?
my wife down, get on, but it was it's a beautiful country. They have a whole coastal area. There's not a lot of infrastructure for flights and all, so there's like 5, 6, 7 hour drives. We hired a driver, and so we could really enjoy it more. And we just made our way around. We went all the way out to near the Algerian border, out in the desert, in the Sahara. And
check Ken out.
Rented a camel. went riding a little bit. We rented some ATVs.
Did your camel kiss you? Because I know that
they're very affectionate. Yeah.
I'm black, right?
So you didn't
better
kiss.
than my dog.
So
I don't know where that camel's lips been. Look at me. I don't know, man. I ain't trying to.
That's a great point.
Limits.
That's a great point.
We literally, the place we ended up at. So someone was like, "Oh, so you did these luxury tents and da da da." I was like, "Okay, real talk. How that came about was." One of my good friends had just been there like 4 months earlier. And so we did a little Zoom with Brian Chanel. I was like, hey, what was your number 1 tip? And Brian's face changed. He goes, man, brother, you got to get one that's got a private bathroom. I was like, ooh, this is not his personality. Like, it just came out of nowhere. Like, he was stressed about it. And so I started looking up private bath. And when I did private bath, only like 2 places came up.
Wow.
That's how we chose the place. It wasn't the other side of it. It was private bath. Because I was like, I sure ain't sharing no bathroom with nobody. But the only ones with private bath were like these VIP places. So that was how we did. I wanted a private bath, which I'm so glad because, the floor. And I needed a very Western
experience.
So it's funny that you said it because Daneyel is like that, and we was in Bali, and we went down to the beach.
I want to go there.
Oh, it's beautiful, and but the bathroom, she was like, I can't go to the bathroom. I was like, babe,
I'll hold it.
It's natural. It was. They had a big bucket of water with a spoon in it, and you take the spoon. That's how you flush the toilet.
So real talk, it's not Angela, it's me. Angela grew up in farm country. So she grew up in southern Indiana. Her grandparents were egg farmers.
She had a dookie stick.
Yeah, she grew up around 33,000 chickens laying eggs.
I bet she knows what a dookie stick is.
She can do anything. Like, she's the one that, I'm not even handy. She's the one who fixed stuff around the house. Like, her dad's a retired home builder. She'd be like, I got that. I'm like, cool.
She grew up like
I'll go in the kitchen and cook something. Yeah. Like, I just, hey.
I love it.
That's pretty dope. Now this looked like you guys hiked across all the dunes, miles and miles to this location.
No, we came from the front side of this photo. So
okay.
This is real early in the morning. What was awesome is we were out about maybe an hour before sunrise, and we hired this guy he came with 2 camels, and it was just us out there. There was no other humans around. And he took that photo of us, and we like to travel at what we call the shoulder of the season. So we typically, her birthday is October 28th, our wedding anniversary is November 11th. So we'll leave like the last week of October, first couple of weeks of November. And it's usually get really good weather because it's fall or spring, depending upon, what part of the hemisphere you're in. And,
nice.
And you get great rates and not a lot of people. There's a joke that I maybe don't like humans, but I like the humans.
No, you love humans.
I just don't need them all up on me,
all the time.
Just touching me and sweating on me and stuff.
He's like, you had no desires to go down to the festivals, South by Southwest. Keep me away from all that stuff.
Angela wants to go back. She went to that a couple of times. It's like, hey, let's go back to. I was like, they got a tent.
With the private bathroom?
Free from mosquitoes.
Bathroom. It's kind of like when you go to like a sporting event. Always get the tickets with the lounge access with the private bathroom.
Right. It's the truth. I want the bathroom right next to me.
Yeah, gotta have that.
Just
don't want to wait in line.
Get the private bathroom.
Oh man, that is funny.
Love it.
Ken, I really appreciate you hanging out with us. You got a lot of things going on, and what's something that you could leave with the people if they could follow you on Instagram or social media, or if you just want to leave a gold nugget, especially for emerging entrepreneurs? It's kind of my goal right now is to kind of talk to the emerging entrepreneurs, especially in today's times. Like, modern leadership is coming. We have technology that's out here that is going way faster than we are, and traditional leadership like that Steve Jobs way of leading is old. We have to look at our teams. We have to look at what's going on around us. To your point, leading with love. That's the new way of leadership. That's the modern leadership culture. So if you want to leave somebody with some gold nuggets around that, or where they can follow you or connect with you, let us know.
I live pretty open life, so Ken J Barnes 1, KenJBarnes 1 is Twitter and Instagram. It's mostly food, but actually, I would say this: if we're talking entrepreneurialism and startup, I can't think of his name, but he was the former chairman of BP, British Petroleum, the big oil concern. And this is the gist of what he said, but it was that the downside risk is never what it seems from a negative perspective. And what he meant by that is we often will make decisions like, the risk level is too high, it's too risky, I got to stay away from it. And what he argued is that it's never as risky as you think it is. So take the plunge. And that's what I would recommend to them. Take that plunge. There was a book, I was like 19 years old. It's like, I don't know, it's like a 60-page book, 70-page book for like outside salespeople, or whatever. I came up in outside sales.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
Quick and to the point.
And it was, I don't remember much of the content. I remember the title and the focus, which it was called "You Can't Steal Second with Your Foot on First." And it's just basically that. And I grew up playing baseball, so it spoke to me. And it was that you got to take off. You may get thrown out, you may get picked off, but go.
Yes.
Go for that base. Take off and run. Sometimes you gotta people swing on the monkey bars like they had when they were younger, and they want to keep holding it, and they fall, because they hold on to the last bar too long because they're afraid. They go to the next one, and I see that more in our community. This I want to start this business, but I don't want to leave my state job. Or I grew up in Sacramento, so remember everybody got state jobs.
That's a good thing, right? Like,
down here maybe it's county, and it's not that there's anything wrong with working. Shouts. The point being is it's not being an entrepreneur,
right?
And you can't try to do everything. Walk away, or just stay what you're doing. But if you want to go big, you got to walk that plank.
Got to.
Yeah, that's real.
Have to.
I feel like we could have talked about anything with you, and I appreciate that. Yeah, you're a great.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
and I do appreciate it. It felt like I was sitting in the barbershop. Of course, I don't remember anything I said, so I may have just blown up all my opportunities for everything forever because I just said what came to mind.
But no, you're dead on, and what you just said, it goes right with my final thought, which was remembering that you are going to die is the best way to avoid the trap of thinking that you have something to lose, right? You're already naked. There's no reason not to follow your heart. And that was from Steve Jobs, who was the late CEO of Apple, right? So that
also, you've got to be, your problem is that you're not afraid of dying. You need to be afraid of dying. That was from that dude in the pit with Batman. In The Dark Knight Rises, when he got thrown down in that pit and his back was broke, and he was trying to climb out. Like I said, if you're afraid of dying, if fear finds you, then that's when you go.
Yep.
So that's the other great quote. I don't know that dude's name down in the pit. I love that scene.
It's funny because EO just had the guy that was in the movie. Well, the movie was about him. I think it was like 127 Days or something like that is the name of the movie, if I'm not mistaken. And it irks me that I can't remember his name, but it was Aaron something, and he cut off his own
127
arm.
hours, yeah.
127, yeah, he cut off his own arm. To survive because he was stuck.
It's something that it impelled him. He was stuck there, and he had to,
So it just, it's being in those situations where fear is not about fear. So I say that because someone just hit me in my inbox and was talking about what, he was a manager at a corporation, and he's like, I'm ready to get out the corporation. What was some of the fears that you went through? And I was like, bro, every single last one of them. You know what I mean? But you got to fucking jump. Build the plane while you're flying.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. So whether you're a CEO, entry level, somewhere in between, it doesn't matter. We encourage you to think about what you're doing and make a difference. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Because whatever it is that you want to jump and go through, it's all about making a difference. And as long as you treat your team right, treat your people right, and treat your customer right, you're going to fucking win. It might not be winning at the time that you want, but you will fucking win.
Yep.
This is Life and Shit.
This is Life and Shit.
Love you. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.